Hey everybody, sorry I did not warn you that I was going to go live ahead of time. It is real talk time. I try to do 2 of these a month, and so I didn't give you guys a warning ahead of time because I didn't know what I was going to be talking about, and I didn't know when I'd be ready to come on and talk about that. And so there's lots of concepts that I have in my mind, but like none of them felt ready to share yet. And so I've been praying about it, and what I really felt like I was supposed to share or talk about today was my healing journey. I get a lot of questions about like the healing journey and how do you go on the healing journey, or like how do you proceed into your healing. I can only tell you guys my personal experience, what I went through, and some of the like things that I wish that I would have done differently or wish I would know then what I know now, and just share those things with you. So when I started this healing journey, it was about 3 years ago. I thought that I was preparing myself to get married, and I ended up having to prepare myself to go through some trauma and some healing to be ready to be the wife that God has prepared me and wants me to be. And I was upset with that because here I am thinking that God is going to answer a prayer that I've been praying for at least 20 years and getting my heart ready for. And instead, God had another journey for me so that he could answer my prayers. And me in my naiveness thought that I could say, this was like my famous last words, but I think God honored them, and I think there's room for grace in that. I said, okay, God, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this quickly. I don't want to do this in like 10 years or 15 years. Like I want to do it now. I want it to be done now. And I feel like God in that moment was like, okay, we're going to take the fast route. This is what we're going to do. And in my naiveness, I thought that'd be like a month, right? Like I was like, this will be like a month long. And I think I gave God like a time frame of 3 months because I was obsessed with time. Like I wanted things that's controlling, right? That's manipulation. So, and here we are 3 years later, and I'm still walking through some things. And I think the difference is my perspective and the attitude that I take with that. So I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books. I did a lot of preparing my heart to go on this healing journey with God. And one of the books, is actually on my website, Beautifully Broken. That's where all these resources come from, are from what I actually studied in these last 3 years to help me on my healing journey. But his name is Mark the Jesus. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's like spelled that way. And I read a lot of his books in this healing journey, and it was really powerful to me and really good material. So if you guys are struggling with some stuff, go find some books from Mark the Jesus. Go listen to him. He has some really powerful stuff. But he had said something in the beginning, which is that he had to accept that his healing journey was going to take as long as his healing journey was going to take. And he had to come into submission with that. Like he just had to allow that to happen and accept that. I remember reading that and being like, I don't want to come into a submission to that. I want my healing journey to take as little period as possible. Like I want to be done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've lost all hope. I don't want to do this forever, right? Like I want to do this for the next year or the next year. And I remember telling my friends, like, I don't know if I have 3 more months in me. And 3 more months later, I don't know if I have 3 more months in me. Until 3 months became 6 months, became 9 months, became a year, became 3 years, right? And I wish that I would have heeded his words at that time. Like, I wish I would have really just like submitted and said, God knows the timing of my healing journey, and he prepared it ahead of time. And instead of fighting and being miserable and screaming and trying to control and trying to manipulate, which are just demonic things, I wish I would have just surrendered to the timing of it. And I wish I would have just known that God is in control. If I would have just trusted his timing and to just let him do what he says he's going to do, I wish I would have just grabbed onto that. I wish I would have just done that from the get-go, but I didn't. And I think that's because I had to learn how to have trust with God. And that's what I had to learn in this healing journey, was to trust him. Like this is what this has all brought me to do, to say, my healing journey is going to take as long as my healing journey is going to take. And if it's in God's hands, then it's going to be the right time and it's going to be perfect. And I don't need to try to control that. I don't need to try to speed that up. I mean, during this process, guys, I prayed. obsessively, hours upon hours upon hours. There was a year that I lost 15 pounds because I walked around this house and I prayed so much, begging God to bring his promises down. I fasted. I went to pastors. I tried to do everything right. Like, it was like, I literally was going like, I'm doing everything to try to force you to bring your promise down to me because I don't want it to last this long. I want to be healed instead of just walking with God. And just being in his relationship and his presence and spending time with him and knowing he knew the timing and knowing he was in control and relaxing that. Because I don't know how many people that I have talked to and been praying with them and counseling with prayer, right? Like in their own healing journeys. And it's like, we all struggle with the same thing. Like, God, how much longer? Have we not struggled enough? I mean, even David, right? It was like, I'm only human. Like, eventually you have to change this. Like, I can't wait forever. And the other thing, like, too, that I remember a pastor talking to me and saying, like, these things to me. And I was like, I've already gone through that. Like, he's telling me I need to rework on these things. And I'm like, I'm only going through that. Like, I've already done it. Like, don't tell me I have to do it again. But what really God had showed me in this process is, yeah, you dealt with it to a certain level that you were able to deal with it at that time. But there's different maturity levels. And so when you are asked to revisit an area, instead of getting angry or mad, like, I don't know about you guys, but I did. I would be so angry and I would be so mad. Like, I've already dealt with this. Like, why do I have to go through and deal with it again? Right? Like, I would get so mad. I would just get hopeless. I just would stop. I would delay my own healing for like days or weeks because I was like, I've already dealt with this. Why am I having to deal with this again? If it's not done, if it's not taken care of it never will be. So I've lost hope. Why do I even want to go on? Right? These are the things that I struggle with. These are the pitfalls that I fell into. But then, like, God started to show me, like, you've dealt with it to the level that you were able to deal with at that time. Now I'm calling you to a higher place of maturity, and now you're able to deal with it at a higher level. And instead of looking at it as, oh my gosh, I've already dealt with this. Why are we bringing it back up? Why can't I just heal from this? Why is this not getting better? Instead of having these thoughts, if we can think, oh my goodness, like, I've reached a new maturity level with Christ. And with this new maturity level with Christ, he's allowing me to go to the next level, the next step. I'm not going to fight him on this. I'm going to rejoice because I have matured so that we can re-bring this up and we can get to a deeper level until it's completely healed. Now, there's certain things where God just pulls things, certain strongholds where I think things do just get healed. But there's times that there's a process in it. And that's the relationship part, right? Like, if God just took out my pain, that's great. I would worship him for the miracle for like 5 seconds, right? Maybe 2 days. And I know this because God has done that many, many times in my walk with him, in which he's done a miracle and I liked it for a little bit of days and then I would go back to where I was. That's why sometimes, like, he doesn't pull it all the way right away because there's a relationship to it. There's choice, right? Like, I have a choice, that I can choose to continue to walk in my stuff and not to choose God in that. So I would get really mad because people would be like, I was healed like this. And I would watch all these Christian movies and they'd be like, we were healed like this. We prayed once and it was healed. Here I am 2 years in my journey and I'm still struggling with the same thing. And so it would be just very disheartening for me. But that's like what God showed me later is, no, this is about the relationship and the walk and the fact that you keep coming to me and the fact that you keep coming and trusting me and the fact that you are going to ask for me to show my character to you. And like those things are more important because once I started to trust him and I started to, allow him to have full access to my heart and to walk with him. And even if I didn't understand what he was doing or why he was doing it, even when it felt like, why are we bringing back stuff up that I thought I'd already dealt with and it wasn't not dealt with yet? Like I can walk through those things now because I know what the relationship with God is like. I know that even if he doesn't pull this pain right away, or even if I have to deal with it 1 or 2 or 3 times before we get to that level of complete healing, that like God is going to meet me there and he's going to walk me through it. And that to me is better than anything in the world because I know that there's nothing in this world that can happen that God can't touch, that God can't heal. And I'm not saying I always handle it perfectly. I don't, guys. Like, I don't. Right? Like, I still have emotional breakdowns. I still get mad. I still have some fits. But the difference is I don't stay there because I know who God is. And so in your healing journey, I really would encourage you to just allow it to take as much time as it's going to take. Don't put a time limit on it. Don't let anyone else put a time limit on it. Continue growing. You want to see growth. But it's going to take as long as it's going to take. You cannot manipulate God. You can't fast. You can't pray. You can't scream it down. Like, that's not why we fast, pray. And we do these things. We do that to honor God. We do that because we literally want to honor him and spend relationship with him, hear his voice, and we want to glorify him. We don't do that because we want to demand our promises or demand that he change a situation. We do it because of who he is, and he's good. And we hang on, even in the bad things, even when everything is falling apart and we don't understand it, we hang on because of who he is. And I know that when I first heard this and I was in the pain, like, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't. And so if you're going through the pain right now and you're struggling, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't, because I understand. Like, you don't want to hear that it can be a certain amount of time. Like, you want to know the peace, and you want to know that there's hope. Really, right? Like, that's the thing for me, was I lost the hope. And hearing that God's time limit might be whatever God's time limit is, didn't bring me hope. And so I guess the only thing that I can say about that is that if you will just stop and do the process with him, if you stop wondering about how he's going to do it, when he's going to do it, if you stop putting an expectation of how that's going to look, because his thoughts are higher than ours, right? And you just look at who he is, and you just seek him for who he is, and you start relying on him, and you start pressing into him, and you start to know that he is good. And even if you can't see that situation and how it can possibly ever turn out to be good, you just know that he's good. You look at how he has helped you in your life before this, how he has made other situations good when you didn't think he was going to be good. And you trust him that he'll make this good as well. And you say, like, right now I'm going to mourn. Like, I'm going to hurt. I'm going to struggle, but I'm going to do it with you, God. I'm going to invite you into this. I'm going to ask you to meet me here. And sometimes maybe he's just going to cry with you. I've had that happen before. There's things that maybe in our human perspective can never be made right the way that we think that it should be. There's things in my childhood that I'll never get back. Like, that's just a mourning. Like, I just have to mourn it. And I just have to trust that God is going to redeem it in a beautiful way that I can't understand because his thoughts are higher than mine. And so, yeah, my promise is still not here. I gave God a 3-month time limit. It's been 3 years. But my perspective has changed. I'm not demanding God to do it in a certain time. I'm not mad every single time something pops up that I feel like I've already dealt with, but God's saying we have to go a little bit deeper. I welcome it. Now, I'm not saying my first thought or my first 5 minutes is in like, I already dealt with this. Like, why are we doing this again? I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying that I come into submission with that, and I'm learning to enjoy the journey with God. You know, before this journey even started, someone had told me that they had a vision that, like, I was whitewater rafting with God. And I was miserable because I was like, look at the waves. Look at this. This is horrible. Everything's bad, right? And then they're like, but God looked at me in this vision, which is true. And I laugh because I'm turning 38 next week, right? And we're going to go, I want to go whitewater rafting, but no one else wanted to. But we're going to go on the lake, and we're going to do like rapid 2, so pretty mellow. But I laugh because it's like, I so love whitewater rafting. I so love adventure. If you know me, I've jumped off buildings. Like, I have this like thing for adventure. It's just crazy. And so in this vision my friend had gotten, there was God looked at me and said, but you love the adventure. So won't you just go on the adventure with me? And instead of looking at the waves and looking at the turmoil and looking at all the things that could be scary, if I change my perspective and I realize it's just a fun adventure because God who's with me is not going to let me fall out of the boat, and he's not going to let me drown. He's not going to let me die. I mean, it feels like there's a Bible story about that in the Bible, right? Where Peter walks on water, right? Like, God can quiet the storm in any moment. But there's something in the storm that he's trying to get us to learn. And so I feel like that's the best picture of my healing journey, which it's been like, it's the way that I perceive things. And if I perceive that this is an adventure with God and he's in control, then I can just enjoy it. Like, I can just have a great time. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect all the time. I have my moments. I'm always going to have my moments. I'm having a moment right now because I'm going to be 38. And it feels like God's promises are getting further and further and further from me because the human body, right? Like, just the way that things are. But I do believe it's still in God's control, and I'm still surrendering that to him. And I have to trust him, and I have to realize it's an adventure. I still have to mourn the fact that I will always be an old mom. Like, I'm not going to be a young mom. I didn't get to spend my 20s and my 30s raising kids. I'm going to have to spend that later on. And there's going to be a beauty in that. There's a beautiful trade-off in that, but there's still something for me to mourn, right? I'm not telling you guys that there isn't time for mourning. There's definitely time for mourning. I'm not telling you there isn't times that I don't have my moments. I have my moments. But if I could really encourage you guys, the two biggest things. One, your healing journey is going to take as long as it's going to take. Allow God to take the time that he needs to bring it to its full potential, because it's good and he knows, and he's not going to hurt you. He loves you. So he's going to bring it about to your prayers. He's going to bring it about to what is good for you. And then two, when something comes back up that you feel that you've already dealt with, don't be mad about that. Be encouraged. Know that you have reached a new maturity level, and the reason God is bringing it back up is it's time for you to go back through it and reach a new level with it. And then just have friends, have unity, have people around you that are going to pray for you, have people around you who are going to encourage you, have people who are around you who are going to be a light for you when it's kind of dark from time to time. And sometimes we just need to remember God's character. And instead of asking God why, this would be my third big point. Instead of asking God why, God does not have to defend himself, and he won't defend himself. He's God. Ask him to reveal part of his character to you in this situation. Who do you want to be for me now in this season? God, what are you wanting to show me? What character of yourself are you trying to show me during the season that I didn't know before? Because God loves to define himself. He loves to show you who he is, but he doesn't have to defend himself. Just like if you have a child and they go to you and they ask you why. You don't have to defend yourself to your child, but you love to show your character to your child. You love to continue to reveal yourself to them in new ways so they can love you at a deeper level. So I hope this helps. I hope some of this stuff really sinks in. I kind of had to do it on the fly because I just did not know what God was really wanting me to say today, but this is what was on my heart. So I love you guys. If you guys are on your own healing journey, know that I'm praying for you. Know that I'm loving you guys through it from afar. Always feel free to message me any questions that you have, or if you have any prayer requests, I'd love to pray with you guys. My heart is really for God's children to be healed, and my heart is totally understanding that things in this life happen that kind of take us away from being what we think we should be as Christians. But God has a redeeming and redemptive power. And I love understanding that process with him. I love going through that process with him. And I love praying with other people and joining with them in those processes. I love you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful Saturday.